So it's an honor and a privilege to bring our next speaker, Greg Stoker, to the stage.
Hello, my name is Greg Stoker. I'm a former United States Army Ranger who conducted 4 combat deployments to Afghanistan and the unfortunately named and ill-fated global war on terror, which killed millions of people in over 7 countries and vastly expanded the national security and police state at home, all in service to the profits and power consolidation of the ruling class, the kings we are concerned here with today. I'm now an anti-imperialist political activist, journalist, and geopolitical analyst at a small independent newsroom here in the States. Okay, thanks. And I've been thinking a lot about the lawlessness of our own government, because 2 weeks ago, myself and hundreds of others from 44 different nations were kidnapped in international waters by the Israeli military while attempting to establish a baby formula-fueled humanitarian corridor into Gaza. An act protected under international law and the Geneva Convention. So I was like zip-tied and kneeling in a military prison 2 feet away from Minister Ben-Gvir, head of national security, as he was yelling, "You are terrorists!" And sorry, I always, when I always do that, guy, it always turns out French, but I was reflecting on, again, the utter lawlessness of our own governments. We don't follow our own laws, both in terms of foreign policy and domestic policy, and like how people who've actually been convicted of supporting terrorism, like Ben-Gvir, who our country supports unconditionally, are always the ones to wield the cudgel of the terrorism accusation to crack down on political dissent. So we saw this week Speaker of the House Mike Johnson and White House Press Secretary KKK Caroline Leavitt assert that this protest would be full of, quote, Hamas supporters and Antifa, i.e., from the government's perspective, a bunch of terrorists. So now what's interesting kind of about this messaging is now that they're labeling any resistance to the imperial violence of U.S. foreign policy as being ideologically pro-Hamas, while defining any resistance to the grotesque militarization of the police and the violence of the carceral system here in America as being Antifa. So regardless about how you feel about either organization, if you have a problem with the violence and the lawlessness of the United States government, specifically the current administration, you're a terrorist. So this is where we're headed. And a lot of people are scared right now, which is a good thing. I think it means you're not an idiot and you're no longer sleepwalking into fascism. So that's cool. But we have to do a whole lot more, okay? So I've heard a lot of specifically white folks say that this rally, we need to smile and be nonviolent, of course, and stay in permitted zones and not give them reasons. Guys, come on. This rhetoric, it acts like obedience keeps us safe. But that safety that hinges on obedience and the appeasement of fascists is intrinsically violent. And for many people, just existing in their skin is seen as violent by the state and is met with violence, right? So safety does not come from submission. It comes from solidarity, from backing each other up, no matter what. And that solidarity exists along class lines and intersectional struggle, all right? So there's one group of people who own all the wealth, all the property, and control the apparatus of state violence, and you ain't one of them. So when you're talking about no kings, you better expand that to encompass Peter Thiel, Larry Ellison, Oracle's right down the street, Alex Karp, Miriam Adelson, the oligarchs really controlling our politics. So, and honestly though, even though he's president, Trump isn't nearly the most powerful individual I've listed, even though they all back him. So we're not gonna submit to these folks or to the milquetoast resistance people who are like, don't talk about LGBTQ issues or Palestine or immigration at the protest. Only keep it focused on Trump. But this violence started long before him and will continue long after he's gone. And the billionaires and the corporatists that will continue to run our politics, and there is no liberation without collective liberation and no safety without uncompromising solidarity, right? So I'm grateful to all of you who just showed up today for your first activism event ever. It's truly a huge step. Thank you. But to define terms, this is a rally. It's not a protest. This is where you meet your people, maybe join an organization and start doing the actual work, okay? Because nothing here is getting disrupted. Protests exist to demonstrate the might of the people to the ruling class, to the kings, that if we aren't listened to, there will be consequences, and that will not be happening today, and that's great. But, you know, I'm just gonna end this with a Malcolm X quote. We're not outnumbered, we're out-organized. So get organizing, and after today, start doing the real work. No war but class war.